Hi, and welcome to GoToWork Talks, a podcast about sustainable work life.
I try to set boundaries between work and personal time. 17, I was like, okay, nope, today I'm not going to answer any emails after 17.
Hi, and a warm welcome to today's program on GoToWork Talks. Your host of today is me, Vibeke Stadling, a senior change manager at GoToWork who is passionate about a sustainable work life. Today will be our first of several podcast programs about a sustainable work life, mostly from an organizational and management perspective, taking its standpoint in the neuroscientific model called the Healthy Mind Platter, which was introduced about 10 years ago by two doctors, Siegel and David Rock. And this platter should be understood as a framework for understanding the ideal diet for our brain, with 7 essential mental activities to balance our stress levels, optimize brain matter, and create well-being during our workday and afterwards as well, of course. But before digging into these mental activities in our later programs, let us better understand what stress is and how it affects us. And maybe most importantly, what can we do to stay balanced? For this purpose, I've invited a real expert. Welcome, Feben Javan, a Doctor of Medicine and PhD student in Public Health at Mälardalens University.
Thank you, Vibeke. I would just like to introduce myself a little bit and say that I'm a researcher, as Vibeke said, with a background in medicine, as well as nutrition and global health, and currently working on lifestyle. My current work revolves on the understanding how stress affects our bodies at a physiological level, particularly in the workplace. I'm very much interested in a holistic approach to health, and I think so many of these aspects from nutrition to stress are intertwined. So thank you for having me.
Exciting. And I've heard that there is often a debate about different definitions of stress. Could you shed some light on this? How would you, from your perspective, define stress from a physiological perspective? What are the key physical aspects involved?
That's a very good place to start. Stress from a physiological standpoint can be defined as the body's response to any demand or a challenge. This response typically involves a cascade of hormonal and or neural changes that prepare us to react to the situation. The debate about stress and its definition centers around whether stress is a harmful or a negative or a positive aspect that come with it, such as motivation. I myself know that I am much more productive when I have a deadline coming up. So you can see that stress can come in various forms, from neutral, like everyday challenges, or positive things that can be excitement for a big event, or negative stress like conflicts or tight deadlines or many deadlines at the same time that can be detrimental when they become chronic and overwhelming.
But even if stress could be negative, positive, or neutral, that is something we do have in our lives, right?
Yes.
We can't avoid stress.
No, we can't. It's just a natural part of life. So I think that's kind of where the mindset and maybe the discussion around stress should kind of focus on how to incorporate the right kind of stress in our lives, so to speak, and to the correct level. I think that's where the discussion should be.
Yeah, because a constant boost, that's never good.
No.
I mean, we can't just accelerate our car all the time. We need to brake as well.
Yes.
Can you give us an overview of our body's braking, or rather balancing concept?
Yeah, so the balancing, I think we can then discuss homeostasis, which refers to the body's natural tendency to maintain sort of internal stability or balance. And stress kind of disrupts this balance. And this is natural, and it's called allostasis. Allostasis comes into play, and it's the body's way of adapting to these stressors. And over time, if there's too much, it can lead to wear and tear, of course, but this is a normal change. And allostasis differs from homeostasis, that it is this adjustment. It's not the new norm. It is an adjustment that happens momentarily to face the ongoing stress. So it's like the body saying, okay, this is what needs to happen to overcome or beat this challenge.
I've heard about the hormones, but allostasis and homeostasis was quite new to me.
Okay, so you brought the example analogy of the car. So you can imagine the car cruising on the highway smoothly on fourth or fifth gear, and this would be homeostasis. And then suddenly you come uphill and it's full of traffic, so you have to shift your gear for the who drive manual cars, you have to shift first gear and then balance the pedals to prevent the car from stalling. And this change is the allostasis part.
Okay. And when it comes to chronic stress, which is a significant concern for many individuals in today's society, how would you define that type of stress? And when does it reach a point where a person can't return to a balanced state?
So chronic stress is when you're exposed to stressors for an extended period of time and your body can't easily return to the baseline state or the homeostasis. And this can be harmful, leading to health issues over a long time. There's a concept called allostatic load, and that's basically when the body can't return to what was the original or the healthy baseline, based on this being constantly stuck in this. So your body thinks that this is the new baseline, this is where I need to be at, and there's also a level of like depletion. So if you go back to the analogy of the car, so you've been stuck uphill for a long time, so now, and you've been balancing, putting pedal, gas to the pedal, and you're now right onto the gas.
Mm-hmm.
And your gearbox is kind of degraded now. So even if you do go back to smooth highway, your tank is out of fuel, so you can't go very far. And your gears are destroyed, so you can't change from first gear back to a higher gear.
Okay, so how can we mend our engine on an individual level? What could be strategies or activities that can help us balance the effects of stress in our daily lives?
Well, there's some well-known ways. Obviously, physical exercise is a well-known way of addressing stress, but having a regular, healthy rhythm has a huge effect on stress levels. It's due to endorphin production, better feeling of well-being. Also having mindfulness practices like meditation. For some people, it's praying. And of course, a healthy diet also has a huge role as it affects these sort of other, these kind of inflammatory substances in our bodies, which also lead to kind of stress-like or sickness behaviors that are related to stress or overstress, and that can help as well. And then doing activities that can help you enter into flow state. That can be, for some people, that's different. It's different from, it's a very subjective thing.
Yeah.
It could be like painting or a coloring book. For some people, it's baking. For some people, it's doing things like doing the dishes. It could be very therapeutic. So just finding that thing that helps
mindful.
you. Yeah, mindful. So just entering that flow state. So it doesn't have to be this specific. I think a lot of people get intimidated by the word meditation, but there's so many ways to enter in that headspace. So these, sort of things you could incorporate into your life.
And we're actually coming back to these topics in our later programs, digging into each topic. But too much individual stress also affects their capability to perform at work. And this means probably a less successful company.
Yes.
So when it comes to employers and organizations, what can they do to provide the right prerequisites for their employees to stay balanced and maintain productivity while managing stress?
I think it's a very important thing to think about how we manage stress and recovery in the workplace, since we do spend 30% of our time there, especially if you are, working from office. So I think employers can do a lot to contribute to healthy recovery and, managing stress for their employees. And this could include promoting work-life balance, providing opportunities for breaks, encouraging physical activity, offering mental health support. But if you want to get very much into the specifics, it could be so if you think about physical activity, they could incorporate walk and talk meetings into Outlook. So in a research that's happening in my research group at SOFCO, this is something that, and it's also very much dependent on each workplace. Different workplaces need different things. So this workplace specifically wanted to be able to schedule in walk and talks on their Outlook, because then there was this sort of kind of fear that they felt like being away from their desk or their office was like they're not working, or that they've been away from their work. So that kind of comes back into the positive work culture, or a work culture that supports and promotes, stress management and recovery.
Yeah, and understand that these breaks or recovery pauses will actually increase well-being and productivity, not the other way around, being away.
Exactly. So it's something that maybe I didn't mention earlier about the chronic stress. It's something you kind of start behaving like you're sick. So there's something called sickness behavior that comes in from chronic stress. So if you think about what the symptoms are of being sick, it's like you're very antisocial. You can't really see, you have like a brain fog. You're very tired. So your body kind of treats you like you're sick if you're having too much stress or you're burnt out. So you're very much less productive. So in a way, helping recovery, as you said, makes the employees way more productive and much even happier and even more taking more initiative to do things, more excited to do things. So having a supportive employer and management really helps with the recovery.
And I believe policies, because I know you mentioned policies, could be a great help as well, because then you have some kind of guidelines, what is okay and not okay, for example.
Yeah, that's totally true. So, my research is about promoting outdoor office work, and that's where employees or office workers go and work 30 minutes outdoors. And when they did a qualitative study on this, one of the hinders for this was that the employees felt like the management would not approve or that they're stepping away from work. However, if this was, as you said, put into the policy, and in the policy, this is just my specific research, but another company that has kind of changed the policy or thinking about it is about scheduling breaks between the different meetings. So I think with online meetings has come this sort of over availability that you could just schedule meetings back to back to back to back, so you don't have time to recover or kind of think about what the last meeting was, and you have the next one, and that also adds into the stress of doing so much work at the same time, and also feeling like a feeling of having forgotten something that you have not even condensed or internalized the previous meeting, and now you have to do the other one, and it just doesn't give you this time to kind of breathe. So I think a policy of, I think in one of the companies, one of the suggestions that the employees wanted and would like to implement as a citizen science. So that's one of the methodologies we use, is that they would like to incorporate into their policy having enough or the right amount of break time between each meeting, whether it's physical or online.
Yeah, that's excellent, because it starts at the management level.
Yes.
It can't only be an individual responsibility at the workplace.
Exactly. And, this policy thing goes into so much about workplace well-being, feelings of fairness, feelings of being listened to as an employee, because, you spend so much time there. In the end, we have to feel like we have a say, a sense of control over our work and our work environment. And I think there's some concepts related to work-life balance and work-life sciences and psychology, to job demand and job control, and how an imbalance in these is what kind of creates stress. So having too much job demand and too little job control, or having no job demand and no job, there's this, it's like a four-way table. And it's quite interesting to see how this affects the sense of stress and leading to burnout for employees.
Some kind of, how do you pronounce it in English, autonomy?
Yeah, autonomy, exactly. But also having the right management. So you might have a lot of demand, but then not having a good enough management leads to a sense of being lost. So maybe you don't have anybody to talk to about this, or the manager is not following up, or is disinterested in the employees. So that kind of relationship in the work then leads to a sense of abandonment. So you do need to have a sense of, but I don't want to say familiarity, because, you do have to separate your work from your family, but there is a sense that this is where you spend 30% of your time. So you do have to have a sense of maybe communality, like community within your work. Maybe that's the right word I'm trying to think of.
But if you were to give one specific tip to an organization or company, what is the most?
That's not easy. I think there's so many things that are being done right in Sweden already.
Okay.
For example, I really like this friskvårdsbidrag, this wellness allowance. But it's just so many little things that you could change. Oh my God, this is so hard to.
Okay, 3 then.
Okay, but let's focus on what is new right now. We're kind of in a post-COVID era, so I think having flexible work hours, that's important. So, and also I know that in Sweden personally, with the weather and so on, the flexible work hours will really, really come in handy when, there is a change in the sunlight and so on in the winter. So I think allowing for more flexible work hours will really help with, because the light and so on really affects the how you sleep, and then your sleep then affects your stress, which then affects your productivity. So that's one thing. And then the physical activity and nutrition. So I think physical activity and nutrition is going to go hand in hand. So having good food or sustainable and healthy food options at work, that's also one thing that could really help. And then also thinking about how the technology aspect affects us. So within the policy, how do we schedule in all these meetings? And then, allowing, it's just too many things, just all of them. I think we cannot approach this from, some sort of silo. I think all these things have to come hand in hand.
Yeah.
So I think from, you put me in a tough position.
Oh,
but
no
I think
worries.
I'll
mentioned so many great things, and flexibility is one, and also providing or catering for healthy food at the workplace. And you mentioned something about technology as well.
Yeah, so using the technology for our benefit, and then with the physical activity, think about allowing, so if you think about sedentary behavior in the office, so incorporating options for physical activity at work, and then also when you're away from work. So the physical bidrag, and then walk and talks or outdoor office work. These are all different things you can incorporate within the physical activity. And then within the workplace itself, think about ergonomics, having good amounts of light, think about having natural environments, so maybe a terrace or some plants indoors, so these sort of things. And then management.
Yeah, management.
Let me just, and now on the management level, having a support system, mental health options, organizing things that kind of promote sense of community. So maybe like, say, mental health support services or retreats, maybe this sort of thing, or relaxation spaces. So with it, but from a management point of level, that kind of affects their policy, so that employees feel like they're allowed to take breaks at work.
And a management that walks the talks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but walk the talk in that way. But we're not talking about walk and talk meetings here, but they're not just bark, and they also have some bite maybe in that. Yeah, but they walk the talk indeed. So that's a good way to put it.
What about yourself then? On a personal note, how do you incorporate principles of stress management and work-life balance in your own daily life?
Personally, I think I try, and I think being kind of like a junior researcher, sometimes it can be a bit hard, but I try to set boundaries between work and my personal time. So sometimes, I will 17, I was like, okay, nope, today I'm not going to answer any emails after 17, but it's kind of hard. But I do my best to try to kind of compartmentalize some things. And then I do try to prioritize physical activity and these sort of mindfulness techniques to manage my stress. So if I'm on the clock, sometimes I could just I need some sort of kind of detachment from the work. So I'll maybe just break into song. I'll just sing something. If I'm at home, of course, maybe not in the office, but if I'm working from home, or I'll start dancing. But if I'm in the office, then I'll just maybe put on some headphones or go for a walk or just do something that completely removes me. So maybe I'll take like a 15-minute break and call my mom or a friend of mine if they're available. Yeah, these sort of things that kind of removes me for a bit from that environment. So I feel like I'm not there, I'm not in the work. You said earlier, it's kind of these mindfulness things.
Yeah, but maybe you have to introduce some of your activities in the workplace. At my former employee, we had silent discos.
Oh, that's so great. I wish we had silent disco. I would love that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I would be the number one user of the silent disco, I think, if we had one at MDU. I think I'll put in a request.
Please do. Okay, time is running out, but thank you so much, Feben Javan, Doctorate of Medicine and PhD student in Public Health at Mälardalens University.
Thank you so much, Vibeke. It was lovely talking to you.
Likewise. And next time we will introduce the Healthy Mind Platter and 1 out of 7 daily activities we need in our lives to stay balanced. So stay in tune, and until then, take care of yourself.
Do you have any questions or thoughts about what we discussed in this episode? Or do you need more insights or looking to connect with our experts? Check out our website for all contact details. Visit us at GoToWork.se and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast GoToWork Talks so you won't miss the next episode. Together, we design a sustainable work life.